Okay, now shared Discord. Hey Mike, can you let me know if you can hear me? I'm trying my new earbuds out and I have no clue. I have no clue. Welcome in everyone. Let me get this shared. Okay, and then out to you. And you. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Welcome in everyone. Hey Dan, can you log in and see if you can even hear me? I'm hoping you can. Like I said, I'm trying out the new earbuds, seeing if I can use these and not have to like yell at the phone and not have crosstalk.
Actually, it sounded really good.
Okay, it does. It sounds very clear. Okay, cool. Stay logged in so that way when I finally have my person in, I know whether or not I still sound clear. Thank you, dear.
Wait, did you have it for this one? Yeah. Well, did you have it for this building or is it just...
Hey, no worries. So what I'll do is this. I will invite you and you accept that. Okay.
Hi. Oh, is it not working?
Okay, so I can hear you. It usually pops up like this. You'll have to like click on yourself and see if you have the option to change the camera and turn it on.
It is not giving me anything today. All of the buttons that I'm used to are no more. Hold
Okay,
on.
so here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna hop off, you're gonna close TikTok out, and you're gonna come back in.
Okie dokie. I can do
You're
that.
not the first person this has happened to, if you can't tell. Okay, so Chelsey will be right back. She's gonna hop off, she's gonna reset TikTok, and then she's gonna rejoin to see if she can't get her camera going. But welcome in, everyone. Let's do this. Well, I'm back. Okay. Welcome in, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday. I almost forgot what day it was for a second. So good news is I could hear her. Thank you for the follow, Chelsey. It looks like things are working with the mic, so that's great. There's just the last test is when she's in to find out if there's any feedback on her end or if you guys hear feedback. So let's invite you back.
All right, let me see if I can get my camera to work now.
Yes.
So it's like the screen looks more normal.
Yes, there we go. See, as I said, you're not the only one this has happened to. If you can't tell, it's like a consistent thing where it's like, okay, if it's not working, log out, come back in, it should work.
I'm not, it wasn't a normal problem that I've had with TikTok Live, and I can't find any of my buttons where I can request to join. Like nothing is on my screen. So I have no clue. So I apologize.
No, it's fine. Like I said, TikTok can be really, really weird at times. I don't discount anything. It's like, oh, yeah, no, I believe it. Why?
It just changes day to day.
Yeah, the weird stuff TikTok has done to me, and I was sitting there going, no, after what it's done to me, and like I logged in and all of my videos were gone through for 3 days and then they all showed back up. It's like, yeah, that's
I've heard
great.
about that when we switched over for the Larry Ellison buy, I think is when that happened. When Larry Ellison took over.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was like it just crashed everybody's TikTok accounts for a couple days.
Yep. Hey, Mike. Okay, we're putting in the other. Hey,
Hello.
Meow. Welcome in, Rufus. So yes, make chimichangas, please. I don't do that sport. But welcome in, everyone. We have Chelsey Hocket joining us from Texas. She is running for, let me grab my book. She is running for the Congressional District 5. It's like, hold on, let me swap books. I had my planner. I need the questions. Good Lord, I am so busy over here, and I love it. I love it. I'm keeping myself so busy. I'm researching. I'm learning. I'm growing. I love it. I'm helping people. I love it.
I do love it.
You got an hour before you stream. I've missed your face too. Yes, please come hang out with us for a little bit. I would love that. Thank you, Meow. Let's move this. So we'll start with this. Who are you? What is your platform? And more than anything, let's start with this. Tell me about the journey that's actually led you to wanting to run. Okay. We'll start with that.
So I am just an everyday person. I didn't want to get into politics, but politics, got to me. And I just was tired of it doing me and my family and my community. And it was just so corrupt. And so I went through a very rough pregnancy. It was high risk. I had high blood pressure. I was on the borderline with preeclampsia with my first, and then I had multiple miscarriages. When I got pregnant with my second is when Roe v. Wade was overturned. Knowing that I had already had previous issues, it was kind of a big trigger to jump in and get more involved than just surface level involved. I would watch the news, do what I could, but I made more and more of an effort. So when my son, I got out of my postpartum phase with him and I could take on more, I just jumped in 2 feet. With both feet. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand watching my community starve. We were running out of water. My kids' schools are getting defunded. The teachers are not being paid. We're seeing people getting kidnapped off the streets. And with everything, I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep quiet. And not that I was quiet, but I was more on a private side. I went public with it. And I started researching my candidate more and more. And I started fighting against him. I started calling out his BS and I started fact checking him on a regular basis. And I got really involved with the group in my area. And from there, they were kind of like, all right, let's push you forward. And they were like, you're the one that wants to challenge him. So let's put you in the seat. So they've supported me emotionally for most of this. And I have support outside of the official county parties because they can't do anything for me. And I'm currently in the runoff, so I don't have actual financial and physical support per the county, but I do have individuals that adore me and help me out a lot there. But sorry, that was
no. Go ahead.
I feel like I veered.
No, here's the thing. We do tangents in here. Like I said before, this is just chaos. I mean, look, I'm wearing a corset with a medieval dress. Okay, we are chaos, we are fun, we are nerds. Tangents are what we do. And on the note of Roe vs. Wade, I think that was a trigger for a lot of women to take away one thing that we absolutely thought was ours by right, was bodily autonomy. And then to be told, no, it's based on the state. And then in turn, religious beliefs, whether or not you have bodily autonomy.
Yeah.
And it's I have a problem with having less rights today than I did the day I was born. My daughter is 10. She has less rights today than she did the day she was born. But my son doesn't.
Yeah. No,
Make that make sense.
It's the exact same. The one thing that I am grateful for, but happened way too late, was that marital SA was outlawed in the early 90s. I was so I have that right, that my mother didn't, but everything else is just, it's in reverse. Right. And it's not like anybody takes that seriously anyways. It's assaults happening at at an increased rate. When pregnancies at an increased rate, it's not. But I didn't enjoy Trump one by any means. And then to see Roe v. Wade in the middle of Biden get overturned, and then finally having enough states to ratify the equal rights movement for women, only to have it acknowledged but not solidified before Trump took back over again, just spiraled the women's kids, and I'm
Yep, it did. And PJ's going, the option for abortion should be there with no stigma, which I absolutely agree with. But it shouldn't be advertised as birth control.
nobody
And
advertises.
that's just the thing is that is part of the misinformation is I have never ever once in my life had it advertised to me as a form of birth control. No, it is not contraception. Birth control is
Not even
condoms.
Plan B.
Yeah.
Plan B
Not
is
even
not
Plan
even
B.
advertised as birth control.
No, it's not. It's advertised as something that happens after the fact to stop the development of the fetus if the spermatozoa reached the ovum. Okay,
Yeah.
if the sperm reached the egg.
Yep.
So and here's the thing is you might see that advertised in your state. That is because your state representatives are allowing it to be advertised as such. Reality is medically, it is not. It is not contraception. It is not birth control. It is after the fact. Birth control stops it to begin with, period. Plan B and or, going to Planned Parenthood and going through their process, which mind you, they do actually try to talk you out of it before they let you do it when it comes to abortion care. But a lot of people don't want to have that conversation either. They just want to assume the people going in there are just doing it because XYZ, when in reality, especially if it's later in the pregnancy, that baby's wanted. Trust me. There's probably a nursery. They picked out a name. There's clothes. And if they're sitting there at 5 months going, it's not viable, hearts are breaking. Believe me.
Nobody wants to
I've
be
been
involved.
there. Nobody wants to be there. I had to have a DNC, but they wouldn't do a DNC until it actually started being septic. I started to become septic before they would actually remove the fetus from my body because I live in a state where even before Roe v. Wade was overturned, they wanted the body to take the natural course and would only intervene if the mother shown signs of dying.
And that's why women died rapidly.
Yep. So,
Essentially,
mind you,
for the procedure.
I
and-
was 5 months pregnant. It had been dead inside of me for almost 5 weeks.
Yep. That's horrifying.
My body wasn't flushing it. I was absorbing it because it was decaying inside of me. I almost died at 23. At 23 years old, because I lived in a state that even 20 years ago didn't want to do the procedures.
Having to be a living coffin for your child is horrific and not something that any woman should have to go through and should not have to fight for. You should not have to live with a dead baby inside of you for 12 hours, let alone 5
No,
weeks.
you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. If there is no heartbeat, there is no way to resuscitate it. Please just help the mother start the grieving process. Don't make her hold on to it because it kills her more than just physically. It hooks her up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, not just physically. And it takes a lot of therapy to get past it. But it could be easily solved with, okay, well, it's an ectopic pregnancy. Because again, that's another thing where, well, if there's still a fetal heartbeat, they won't do the surgery for ectopic pregnancies, which by definition are fatal.
Yeah.
So yeah, Roe vs. Wade was a trigger for a lot of women.
Yeah. And then I do
Even
have
women in, yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead.
you know, it's like I have endometriosis as well. So for me, the reproductive care and everything it's hard to come by. One, but during Trump 1, he stopped the research for anything that included the word woman, and I knew that he would do it again. So not only am I living with miscarriages because I have endometriosis and holding on to pregnancy is difficult, but now I live every day with pain from endometriosis that flares up once or twice a month. And there's no research. There's no medication. It costs $2,000 out of pocket to get it treated, but it's horrifying.
So on that note, I have polycystic ovary syndrome.
It's not fun at all.
I
to
get it.
do.
I have to be on metformin, which, mind you, I had 5 miscarriages before I had a live birth. That was 27. He's my son. We didn't know I had PCOS before I was diagnosed with it when I was trying to get pregnant with my daughter. He was quite literally a God-decided miracle baby. He is my rainbow baby. There is no reason why I should have carried him to term. I only had 2 prenatal visits. I had no prenatal care because of the fact that I was moving between states and had no health insurance at all for 90% of my pregnancy. Because guess what? Health insurance, when you're on state insurance, doesn't carry from state to state. You are in limbo period for X amount of weeks while they decide whether or not you get it, even if you're pregnant. And then even though half the time they say they'll backdate it to the date you filed, well, you still have weeks missing between X and Y where no coverage was done, so you can't go to the doctor even though you're pregnant. I got lucky. There were no complications with that pregnancy other than the fact that I was in labor for 24 hours. Mm-hmm. With my daughter, we knew I had PCOS. I have to stay on metformin in order to control it. And they told me at 14 weeks, they're comfortable with me going off of it because I'm less likely to lose her. But I'm like, oh no, if this makes sure I have like a 60% chance increase to keeping her own, I'm staying on it. I'm not taking that chance. Because you're right, there's not a lot of research into endometriosis, into polycystic ovarian syndrome, into women's reproductive, because guess what? It's only been the last maybe 30 years they're actually looking at the women's body and going, oh, it's different than a man's body.
Oh, they didn't start.
We can't treat it the same way.
They didn't start doing medical research on women until the 90s. Period.
Yeah, so it's been the last 30 years.
Like, I'm talking about like on lungs, on kidneys, on other like for skincare, for all of it. Like they didn't start medically researching things until the 90s on women, so they had no idea how stuff worked with hormones.
Between 92 and 94 is when they actually started going, oh, there's a difference in men's and women's bodies, and the chemical makeup is different, and this is makeup. Maybe we should study women's bodies. I remember that I was in school, in middle school, during the time when they were out deciding all of that. It's like, cool, we're vastly different than men. Okay, but now we're finally going to get treatment. Cool, 30 years later, oh wait, women's bodies don't really matter, and we're not going to continue looking into it. Yep. And it's like, when it comes to medical care, there's so many things that are mandatory for women to get that insurances don't actually cover, or they cover very little of. Perfect example. Women after the age of 40, guess what? You have to get a mammogram annually. After insurance, it's $700. And then if you have dense tissue, because you're part Ashkenazi Jew like I am, you have to get an MRI, which is not covered by insurance, and it's $300 out of pocket. So it's $1,000 annually to have them look at the girls to make sure there's nothing growing in them. I can't afford that.
No. Most people, especially right now.
I can't afford that. I'm going to be lucky if I can do that once every 5 years. And I know I live in a state where the water is not clean. The chemicals in them are absolutely contributing to the rising levels of cancer everybody's seeing. And there's not anything I can do about it other than drink bottled water and hope that's not contaminated. Because some bottled waters, their companies are showing contamination in the water.
They're not being inspected anymore.
Exactly. They're not.
FDA cuts, with EPA cuts, with all of the departmental cuts, especially through DOGE, but it was prior to that too. But
yeah, and it's just. But here's the thing: it's since 2020, and I'll use this as a sparking point because since 2020, a lot of things have become extremely apparent to everybody, and it's not like we can stick our heads in the ground and really ignore it anymore because. Surprise, the pandemic happened, everybody became isolated, and everybody started to realize that I'm not the only person in the world going through all this shit because now I finally have time to go online and actually have those conversations with people in other parts of the country and go, oh, it's not just here, it's there too. Oh, it's not just in this state. It's all over. And mind you, you are the 16th person I've had a conversation with. You are the 12th, 13th, 12th person who's on a federal level. You're not the only one who's had these same exact talking points. It's why I can bring up the same exact talking points and just look into, okay, in Texas, what's the difference between Texas and these other states? Well, here's the one difference, and it's this. But the reality is, here's the shortage, here's this, here's homelessness, here's all the stats that are matching every other state, and it's disgusting.
I mean, it's awful here. So we had the warehouse in Hutchins in South Dallas that they were trying to open up to house 9,500 immigrants plus unhoused community. Yep. So they were going to clear the streets and the bridges of people and put them in a warehouse that would have more than doubled the population of the city that it was in with no infrastructure. And that just got shot down a month and a half ago. Mm-hmm. we have massive immigration rates, and we have our police work heavily with ICE, so we don't see a lot of stuff that we're like. They will arrest them on other charges, and then they will deport them from the prisons. They still kidnap people, and they still harass kids coming home from school.
I don't really want
They do all of the things, but we don't see the outrage here because it's not happening in the middle of the streets like it is everywhere else. It's very hidden, and but our city has the highest rate of deportations and arrests, immigration wise. And then we're dealing like my city. I live in a city about 30 miles outside of downtown Dallas. The homeless population is massive, and like it's every street you'll see somebody, and it's the same people every single day, but it's growing. Like we're getting to know more and more people that are unhoused, and we don't have any support, we don't have any housing, we don't have any programs, we have nothing here. So it's like it's the same thing. And then water, we have the shortage of water. We don't have any water treatment plants. Our water is coming from El Paso. We're running out of water in Corpus Christi. There are no desalination plants that are being built with the infrastructure. There's no infrastructure money because they're not taxing the corporations and the manufacturers that are building them. Like we have nothing. Tesla paid $0 in taxes in 2024, and they keep giving tax breaks to all these companies and data centers that are coming into Texas. And like we don't have the infrastructure for any of it. And so everybody's like, well, how are you going to balance between city and rural? Because I have 16% of Dallas in my district, and then the rest of it is rural. Everybody has the same problems right now. They're the exact same. Gas is too high. Nobody can afford rent. Property taxes are way too high. They're increasing rent. They're increasing mortgages. It's all of it. The only thing that's different is transportation, because they're trying to get rid of the trains in Dallas and like the cities surrounding it. So the DSA has canvassing groups, and they go out and they've been canvassing for DART to try to make people aware of the election, so that way we can try and keep the rapid transit. But the main issue that they have with rapid transit, instead of helping the unhoused population, they just want to take away the trains so they don't have to see them anymore. So that's where we're at in Dallas. And that is the only thing right now that is massively different, because our roads suck everywhere. We have no programs. They're shutting down the housing programs. So in the city, we don't have them. Healthcare, overwhelmed in Dallas, getting shut down in rural. I mean, we need it. We need it all everywhere. It's not different issues. It's different funding, but it's the same issues.
It's the same issues across the board, whether you are in North Carolina, you are in Maryland, you are in Oregon, you are in Texas, Utah, Arizona, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin. Literally people I've talked to, Kentucky. Let's see, there's one or two more states in there, Virginia. It's the same across the board. It's data centers. It's corporations coming in and not being taxed. It's the citizens being forced to pay more for energy. It's BlackRock having their tendrils in everything. And let me tell you, we could talk about the monopolies they have in certain states.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad. And then if you actually dig deeper, then you find out that, if you go a few down a few levels in BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and Wellington Group and like 6 or 7 other major ones, they all have overlapping shareholders and board members. And when you have overlapping board members, you know what that means, right?
It's a
They're all owned by the same person.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just making sure, like, I'm not the only one putting the dots together.
At this time, we're going back to JP Morgan, and we're going back to Rothschilds.
Yep.
And that is the JP Morgan and Rothschild is in Rockefellers. Like that, it's going back that far. The people that colonized the U.S.
Yeah.
And it's still in the same families.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I say it's disgusting, because when you start looking at they between all these 5-6 companies, they own 65%. But if you actually know who owns the companies,
it's more. Yeah.
It's no, they are actually owned by one entity, not 10 entities.
They just keep splitting.
And yeah, it's gross, because I will use this as an example. So while we knew there was a energy monopoly by BlackRock, I had to point out to somebody, I'm like, were you aware that Indiana American Water is a subsidiary of American Water Company or Waterworks Company, which is owned by BlackRock? Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Or
All
the
medical people.
AES Indiana, which is a subsidiary of AES Company, was bought by BlackRock for 33.4 billion, and the deal will be done by the end of this year. Oh, yeah, no. Do your research, people. All I'm going to tell you is if you're watching and you don't believe me on any of this, please, by all means, just go do your research. Plug in some of the names I've just said. You will see it for yourself. Even under Google AI, it just pulls it up right there. And then you can look at all the different websites that they're pulling that information from. And there's like 20 of them that are all agreeing on it. So I don't know about you, but no, I love the fact that I was going through and like watching some of your videos and just kind of reading your platform and everything. And I love the fact that you really do stand on reproductive rights. And that is something where we genuinely need more of that across the board, and not just from women. I'm talking to a lot of men and I'm asking them, how do you feel about that? No, they're all for women should have the right to choose.
Yes.
Doctors should not. Doctors and women, the conversation between them, government shouldn't even be involved. It shouldn't be involved. It's not a question. It's just they shouldn't be involved. It is between the woman and her doctor, and she is making the best choice for herself, period. You know, we have people that go on and on and on about pro-life, pro-life, pro-life. My question has always been, why are we not pro-life that's already here?
Yeah.
Why are we pro-forced birth?
Is death penalty being taken away completely, and not firing squads and gas chambers, which we have in 3 states currently. Indiana, South Carolina, and Alabama have gas chambers and firing squads.
I did not know that about Indiana.
So you know when he revoked the death penalty earlier, immediately those 3 states passed laws for firing squads and gas chambers.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
But that's just it. Is I learned so much more because there's so much flying at us every day. Let's just say there's 100 facts flying at us every day, minimum, and we're able to absorb maybe 10 of those.
Yeah.
So it's like
that one for me.
That's why I keep saying
it took 2 times to stick, because I remember going over it, and then so much more came in that I forgot about it, and then it came back up, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But yeah, for me, like pro-life is we're not no more death penalty. We're not killing kids in the Middle East. We're not bombing schools. Sorry, I said the bad word. We're not taking out schools. We're not we're not starving our children here. We're not pro-life. It's so much more than just fetal development.
right. It is.
It's like when we have people on the street that can't get mental health care. We have people in houses that are literally like losing everything because they had $100,000, $150,000 medical bill and they can't pay anything because they have cancer and they need treatments. We have people like that. None of this is pro-life. There's not anything that's happening right now that is pro-life. I mean, even pro-life itself is not pro-life because it kills mothers at a rapid rate, and they get taken away from their children because they're dying of sepsis before they're able to get treatment, because they're bleeding out, because they have an ectopic pregnancy that explodes an organ, and they're
preeclampsia.
Yeah, preeclampsia, and like you can't get the treatment there. I mean, there was the mother that freaking went in for a VBAC
like 90 times.
Well, no, they brought her all of the judges. They literally brought.
No, that's a different one.
Yeah, they brought her an iPad with like 9 judges on there that forced her to have a C-section.
Yep. I'm talking about the lady who was pregnant, who had preeclampsia and went to over like 90 doctors, and not a single one of them, advocated for abortion, and she ended up dying, and her 16-year-old son found her. And she is a Texas lady, which is the reason why, like, when talking about Texas, that's one of the top things that pops into my mind when talking about reproductive rights is she had preeclampsia. She'd already lost twins because of it. She knew what was going on in her body, and not a single doctor would listen to her about it. It's like we don't know what's going on in our own bodies. No, we can feel what's going on in our own bodies. Something's not right. We know something's not right. Why don't you just understand that's when the doctor's job,
especially when you're so pregnant. Much more in tune with your body, how it's feeling and what feels right, what feels wrong. Like your body just like instinctually takes over because it's suddenly, prepping for an entire other life that's living inside of you. Like you can feel every single movement. You can feel all of your organs because they're all squished up into different places. Like, when something's wrong. Like I had a pain up here that wouldn't go away, and they kept testing me for the preeclampsia and everything in my liver. And it was a consistent one, and I had it through both pregnancies. Turns out my rib was stuck and the chiropractor fixed it and I never had another issue with it, but I knew that something was wrong. And they were like, nope, nope, nope. And I was like, they could not have fixed it. I'm not going to act like they could have. But I have had other issues where they 100% could have fixed, or they could have looked at or done anything else. Like, you sit here and you scratch, and they're like, nope, you're totally fine. And then we have women that die of what, the colic, and that's, is it colic? Where your kidneys start failing and everything is super itchy on your hands and your feet. And the first symptom
Not
is
colic.
Is it colic?
It's not colic because that is coughing. It's the other one.
Cholestasis.
Yep.
Scoliostasis. Yeah, I knew it was longer than that. But it's just, like, there are people that literally won't. It is a gas chamber, by the way. They have.
I was about ready to say, you guys, there's a little it's nitrogen-induced hypoxia administered via mask.
It's not. They have
it's gas chambers. I believe it, because not gonna lie, some of those red states are very, very regressive in certain areas.
I believe it's Indiana and Alabama have actual, like, physical shower-sized chambers that they're putting people in.
Yeah.
And then the firing squads, I believe, are South Carolina, Indiana, and Alabama.
That's just.
Yeah, and they actually, instead of requiring one live round and, like, multiple no live rounds, they are requiring all live rounds. And they actually had all live rounds. 3 people, like, took the shot. The guy did not die from it, and they still had to, like, he basically bled out and suffered, like, horribly. It was a horrible death, which was when I went back and I researched everything again. But yeah, that was South Carolina that the firing squad hit.
Like, PJ goes, I'd want to go out by nitrogen. Very peaceful.
Okay, that's not the point. The point is,
I know.
It's not. I'm not an advocate for the death penalty by any means.
No. Well, depends. Epstein file, yes.
I'm for castration and suffering a lot.
Oh, I am too, but I'm also
I'm
regards
for
to
Guantanamo Bay style torture.
Whereas I'm all for the guillotine.
Yeah, the guillotine.
He thinks he's a king, okay? Let's give him the royal treatment. That is what the royal treatment is.
Yeah, I'd have to say. Yeah. we're getting Luigi-ish. For me.
Well, here's the thing. And on that note, I will say I have watched the CEO of Goldman Sachs. He has put out a video where he's talked about how we need to tax the rich at least a portion of their fair share, and how the rich need to just not fight it, because if they do, what's going to happen is the poor are going to eventually rise up and eat the rich. And the CEO of United Healthcare was just the beginning. He goes, if we are not careful.
There are, I think it's up to like 15 or 16 CEOs have been.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's not going to stop. And that's what they have to understand, is they have pissed off enough people, and enough people have nothing left to lose that they don't care anymore.
I'm a really big advocate of workers' rights. Started in high school with the triangle shirt theory, and it never stopped in my brain. And my husband is a union worker. And
that's mine.
I was like, so workers' rights is really, 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 really big for me. And so when we're talking about all of these platforms, there was a point to this that I was like, yes, and I've already lost it. But where was I going? What were we talking about right before that? My brain. Sorry, it's been a long day.
No, I get that. It's been a very long day. Let's see. And then we were talking about.
Oh, so I'm a big advocate, or like I'm a big. I don't think CEOs or board members should exist, and I think that we need workers' democracy back, back in the workplace. Because way back when my grandparents were working for their union jobs, they voted on changes in the company. They were the ones that were responsible for the shares. They were getting profit share. They were getting tenure pay. Like the teachers were getting tenure pay, and they were getting all of these advantages. They were able to negotiate for their health care. They all got profit share. They all decided on their big bonuses. And there are only like 4 companies in the U.S. that are led by workers like that. One of them is Bob's Red Mill.
Okay.
The flour, the grain company, is worker led. So as far as like I am a democratic socialist, but I'm also very for workers' rights coming back to them and workers leaving the workplace and workers owning the business and workers owning the means of production. I don't think we need government-owned production, but I do believe that workers need to own the production, again, because that is the one way that they were able to survive. We were able to get 4-bedroom houses on one salary. Women were able to raise the kids if that was the choice that they wanted to make, instead of feeling like you had to be out in 2 jobs. But now we're getting to a point I had to quit my job because my salary didn't cover childcare.
Been there. Been there.
And so
I was working for
got
childcare and my car payment every month. That was what I was paying for.
That's exactly
Like there was nothing extra. I've been there. And
and
when you bring home, you know, you make, let's say it was like $900 a week. There's no reason why all you can afford is daycare and your car payment.
No groceries.
Like
no gas. Like my husband still had to fill up my tank. Still had to go to the grocery store and grab stuff for us, you know. And then I had a baby that wasn't even in daycare yet. For a little bit of it, like we did switch him over to full time, and then we had to, like, it was so expensive, we had to put him to part time, and even then it was hard to keep up with. But I worked from home, so it's not like I was commuting. I didn't have all the gas money there, but I was literally taking care of a 3-year-old, a teeny tiny baby, and working from home full time, and still taking care of the house. And so it got to the point where, one, I mentally couldn't do it anymore, and
right.
2, like, it just still wasn't enough money with that being a day. Like, if I had to send them to daycare so I could mentally do it, we couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
It just wasn't.
And they want to sit there and they want to wonder why women aren't having more kids. It's like, well, how much more of a silver platter can we put it on for you? Like we've told you repeatedly, it's because we cannot afford them, because you're putting our lives at risk to have them.
Yeah.
You know, if those weren't 2 of the primary concerns, maybe I would have 4 kids instead of 2.
You want me to die in childbirth. You want me to die in pregnancy. You want me to work my ass off. You want me to take care of the child, take care of the house, work a full-time job, then work a second job so that way we can afford the extra stuff because the daycare costs eat everything. You want my child to get shot in school after I almost died in pregnancy and childbirth. Like, I don't know how many more things they can throw at us and still expect us to continue to reproduce when we can't. We literally cannot. It is not sustainable.
You know, and on that note, you know, well, school shootings. So
Yeah.
the year before my son started at the middle school, that is literally 2 or 3 blocks from our house, there was a shooting there. And it made it very, very hard until, you know, they said, listen, we've hired more cops to come out here. We're doing this, we're doing that. And not just at this school, we're doing it at all the schools in the district, because they were actually afraid that with what happened, somebody was going to go after an elementary school next, you know. And it's one of those, still to this day, I'm petrified to send my kids to school. So when they started talking about cell phone bans, you can bet I was one of the first people on the phone calling going, no, because I've told my son, even if there's a cell phone ban, you take your damn cell phone to school. You keep it in your pocket. You have it on vibrate. You do not take it out unless it is an emergency. Why?
I am so thankful. So all of our doors are like very locked. They have to be opened by the same person. And the back door, not my, like the cafeteria door is not my favorite at my daughter's school because it's only one like door and it's glass. But at least the front door has a double set of doors. So there's no entry, at least through the front. And nobody leaves the building until school time is there. And when anybody's entering or exiting the building, there's a cop that's out there. And I was like, for me, I'm ACAB, but that is something that they need to use for protecting life. Because at that point, they're protecting property. They are protecting life. And I'm cool with that. I'm just not cool with the property part of it and then treating everybody like cattle. But if we're going to sit outside of a school and we're going to protect kids and make sure that they're okay, great. But it also makes me uneasy because we also had a school shooting. I want to say it was probably like October, November last year in Forney, and there was a big school fight, and somebody knocked the cop's arm out of their holster and opened fire into a big group, and it was off of the school property, but it was right after school with a bunch of students. But they weren't even responsible with the fight.
that's no.
Yeah, so for even me, I'm like, okay, cool. If you're going to be there, though, can you be responsible and not cause additional harm because you were there? Like, if you weren't there, there might have been a fight, but there wasn't an open incident. So, sorry, I laugh out of nervousness. Not nervousness, discomfort. I've got to stop my nervous giggling.
You know what? I have the same thing, or it's like, so this is awkward. No. So no, back to healthcare. So healthcare for all. That is something that people keep talking about, and it's something that, yes, we genuinely need to fix something when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to insurance companies, because insurance and medical debt, it's quite literally killing people, and the lack thereof. I mean, in the last decade, 68% of all bankruptcies have been tied to medical debt. That's a staggering amount.
We were one of the only countries with medical debt.
Yep.
It was like
We are one of the
first
only
developed countries.
And that's what I tell people is like, there's three first world countries that have concepts of medical debt, but even theirs combined only equal 13% of the bankruptcies and this and that. But when it comes to America, it's over here. Like, their numbers are down here. Our numbers for medical debt are up here. It's astronomical, the difference, to the point where it's
like
not
the
even
military
funny.
budget, right? Like the military budget for the other countries is like this big, and then ours is like this big. So it's the same thing with health.
Exactly. It's the same thing with that
Almost
debt.
like if we weren't arming foreign countries and paying out the ass with contract defense or defense contracts that we could afford to make this comes down.
Yeah.
Then this also comes down. It's crazy.
Yeah, we could. I mean, the $40 billion we sent to Argentina as an investment in their economy. Yeah, no, that was a bailout. They are using the United States Treasury as a bailout fund for the oligarchs.
An election payout. I don't
was
know.
Was it an election payout?
So the guy that got elected, they did that $40 billion right before the election to secure funds for Argentina, so that way he would get elected. It was an election there, and so we're probably going to see something similar with Hungary. I mean, JD Vance has been in Hungary for the past couple of days. I think he's on his way back, or is already back in the States. But he went there to rally for Orban, like direct influence in foreign politics as a VP.
Yeah,
and
just
while
like they're directly allowing the other countries to influence us.
And while we're at war, the Secretary of State and Trump are just at a WWE match in Miami.
Yeah.
While they're negotiating with Iran, like Rubio's butt
right.
To be out there.
Looks like negotiating to me. Last I checked, you had to have like a phone at least in your hand, talking to somebody to negotiate.
Nope. They're at a WWE match. Yeah.
But that's just it. That's not the first time where he was famous in his first term for going to Mar-a-Lago and going on golf, trips when he should be at the White House in the Oval Office doing his damn job. But, I guess golf's more important because, I wanted to golf that day and I figured I could do it later.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that because Trump shouldn't be in the White House, but
he should.
Farther away is probably the better option. But if it was any other president, then that is where you need to be. Like, that is where you need to be. I would like Trump as far away from as possible from all.
Yes.
I think we all would.
Unfortunately, he is what we have at the moment.
Yeah.
For better, for worse.
Where he
goddesses
in his job, where he's not taking any money from his office position.
No, he shouldn't. And PJ, yes, people need some leisure time, but when you have over 70% of your time dedicated to leisure time and the other 30% dedicated to lying to people,
I think, from both of Obama's terms and Biden's terms, he went over the budget, or their whole 12 years combined in 3 months for this term.
Yep.
For Secret Service, for Secret Service, for travel, for just cabinet members coming down to speak to him there because that's where he wanted to host his meeting from, while he's also fundraising and having people, foreign agents and oligarchs come in and buy a seat at his dinner table while he flees because he doesn't actually want to talk to anybody about anything.
Yep.
So,
and yes, PJ, there is always a but with me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. No, but yeah, that all ties back to the healthcare, and we were talking about the US insolvency, the 40 something trillion versus the 6 trillion we have in assets. And somebody goes, well, I guess the only way to budget balance the budget would be to cut all the spending to like Social Security and Medicare and this. I'm like, oh, no.
defense contracting, military budget.
I said, you do not cut social services first. That is the last thing you ever cut. You start with military spending, and you look at your military spending, and you figure out where you can cut the fat there.
And fruit baskets and lobster. 93 billion.
And then if you really want to budget balance the budget and get us out of debt, we start taxing the wealthy at a progressive tax scale, saying like, okay, fine, if you make under 200K, you make this, we tax you at like this rate. But if anything over like 200 million, now we're actually taxing you at a much steeper rate at increments. So like when you get to 1 billion, 95% of what you make, including on interest for your investments, because we need to tax the interest on investments as well, because that is how most oligarchs actually live, is off their investment interest. If we were to do that in less than 10 years, we would actually no longer be insolvent. We would be able to fund all the programs in our country we want to fund. The states would be in a much better place to take care of their citizens. And just Americans in general, our life would be a little bit better and easier. I'm not saying it's going to be a walk, down cloud 9, but I'm saying that you're going to wake up in the morning without feeling the weight of the world crushing you.
Yep. And so the thing is, too, is like when we cut those social services first, the first thing to go up, crime. So first rate to go up. People need to eat. People need to sleep. People don't have anywhere to go. And then we don't have any public land, so we don't have anywhere people to safely be. So the people that are getting kicked out of their homes are getting arrested. Because parks are public land. All land is owned. Everything is policed. Like there's nowhere for anybody to go safely once they become unhoused. So our crime rates are going to skyrocket if this next round of cuts gets approved. I have something on a deck ready to post shortly, but it's like the $1.5 trillion that they were going to cut. Like they're going to take away WIC. We want moms to have a lot of babies, but we're going to take away WIC.
Yep.
Like they're going to take away a lot of stuff, but that one for me really stood out because that is just absolutely horrendous. It's like $15 a month for some moms. It's not a month. It is this big of a drop in the bucket in comparison to the rest of our budget. It's like teeny tiny microscopic drop in the bucket compared to the rest of it, but they're going to take it away so that way women and infants can't have food while pregnant and can't have formula after, or other food if they're breastfeeding. So I was like,
I'm right there with you.
We've already locked up formula in stores. Like what else are you going to do?
Yeah. And like as a single mom, because the day I found out I was pregnant, I made it very clear to his father, who told me to get an abortion, that I was not going to get an abortion. And if I had a child, it was because God decided finally I should have a child. And if I didn't, I didn't. It was my body doing its thing, whatever. So during the time where I had WIC, mind you, it was like $50 a month. It was not much, okay? But afterwards, it was about $300 a month. And mind you, I started off nursing, but unfortunately with my son, I wasn't able to. So it helped to cover the formula because, like it or not, formula is expensive.
Very.
And it's one of those, I would make sure he had formula for the month before I bought food for myself.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was living in Mississippi. So I'm from Maryland. I moved to Texas when I was 14, 15. We moved around a little bit because my husband needed to get experience for this. So we moved to Mississippi, we moved to Ohio, and then we came back to Texas. So just a little bit of geography there for us. But when I was in Mississippi, I worked at a quick service restaurant called Cookout, which is big in the Southeast. They didn't have a lot of overhead. They paid pretty well for it. It was like I made $12.50 as shift supervisor prior to COVID and had unlimited overtime, got profit share, got bonus checks. Owners were super nice. It was the original owners. It wasn't owned by a board or anything. It was great. So for fast food, like fantastic. But all of the cashiers that I had, they were all on WIC and welfare and everything else that they needed to be able to survive and be able to take care of the kids. in couples with like staying at home with moms, whatever it was, because their paycheck while they worked 40 hours a week wouldn't cover half of it. And they were still making below the poverty level. And sometimes their WIC was only $15 a month. Like they were not getting anything in excess. It barely covered vegetables for them to eat while pregnant. But it was one of the first things that they had to do because they needed to be able to eat and take care of their child and be able to pay their bills. And again, like a lot of them were still living at home, or they were living with a significant other, or they had roommates, and they still could not afford to live working full time. And then we come into the so still welfare queens come back up again post Reagan, because we're in that era. Insane, because it's deserved. You've been working, you've been paying into taxes, and that is your money to take back out to take care of yourself and your family. Like that is so. The social
No, I get it, and it's
$15, $300, whatever it ends up being, is so needed for our families.
well, and then I know you said you're a socialist Democrat. And a lot of people are afraid of the word socialist and socialism, and a lot of times I think it's truly because they don't actually understand what it is, what it means, what social programs really are, because we have a government, especially the right side, that has told them how bad it is, how bad socialism is, how bad it is for the country, how it'll bring corporations down and it'll make people poorer.
It will bring corporations down because
It'll bring people,
So socialism, for me, at this point in time, workers on the means of production and social programs contribute to universal human rights. That's it. Point blank period. Our neighbors are taken care of, we're going to be happier. Our neighbors aren't taken care of, crime increases. People are hungry. People die from lack of medical care. But if we give workers rights fully to have a democracy within their workplace and they own those means of production, everybody will be taken care of, and we don't have board members siphoning off money and funds that need to go back into the workers' pockets. And it's not profit driven. It is driven as a need for the community. And that's, I think, what the most important thing is. So successful socialist countries, democratic socialist countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, most of the European countries are all democratic socialist.
I was going to say, most of the places that are like high on people's list to like immigrate to, like, Denmark, Holland, Sweden, Norway, are all democrat socialist societies, and it functions. They've proven it works.
And I'm going to get a little, I'm going to piss off a lot of people on this one. So places like
do it.
Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, that all have oil resources, sugar resources, Hawaii at some point, even though we kind of took that one over, colonized it. We overthrew their socialist leaders that decided to nationalize their biggest reserve, their biggest supply, and their biggest product. And they kicked our country, they kicked England, and they kicked the U.S. out of their profits, and they gave it back to the people. They gave them health care. They gave them education. Cuba is one of the biggest producers of doctors and has incredible medical programs. So they kicked us out of their supplies. They gave it back to their country. We were mad about it, so we went in and we do everything we can to make their country fail. It's not that their programs are not successful. It's that we keep sticking our noses into everybody else's business, and we want them to fail, and we want to take over their resources. That's it.
We want them to fail because then it makes it easier, quote, unquote, for us to get what we want. Instead of, if we actually let them thrive, we would have to barter with them as equals, and God forbid we do that.
Yeah. So
they may have a lot of socialist programs, but they're both bound.
But the parliaments are elected officials, and the parliaments are typically what makes the laws and the rules in those areas. So there is still democracy in those areas, and they do still speak for the people. Typically, the monarchs are just entitled at this point in time. They may have some rulings here or there. They may make declarations, but for the most part, it's just a social.
It's the same in
the parliament.
We think of England, where the parliament's the one that makes their laws and enforces everything. Yeah, they have a king and queen, but it's literally just a figurehead at this point. They don't actually have the power that they used to have because they handed it off to the parliament.
And they gave it back to the people. But you have prime ministers, which is just another name for a president, and you have other figures that are elected officials that aren't necessarily monarchy, but they just have different fancier names. But I mean, the royal families, I think, are just such an institution in a lot of these countries. They're not going to go away. They're not going to go anywhere. They have all the property. It's not really state owned. It's not really family owned. It's just kind of a weird in between.
No, I think there we go.
But
You first for a second.
oh, sorry. I was just saying it's a weird in between like the state heads and the property that they own, and going between the state and going between the royal family. And then it's just everything kind of underneath of it is where the democracy is for these areas, but they are still democracies, and they have given the power because they don't want to get teams. So
Well, and that's just it. Here's the thing: is socialism does not mean taxing the working people more.
no,
It doesn't. Socialism actually means relieving the tax burden off of the working people and putting
Giving
it
it
back
to the
on the people where it should be, which is your shareholders, your corporation leaders, the people who are oligarchs and living off of their interest. Those people are the ones who actually should carry the entire burden of taxes for the programs in the country they live in. And quite frankly, as people have said before, if they don't like it, they have the money to leave. Guess what? They are not going to leave. Why? Because it's too profitable to live in the United States, even if they're paying that extra money. Just go look and look for CEO interviews about eating the rich and taxing the rich. And you'll see a lot of them, especially recently, are standing up saying, no, please tax us, because they're seeing their fellow oligarchs fall. United Healthcare CEO was just the beginning.
Places like Virginia that have allowed data centers without taxing them is killing their infrastructure. We have CEOs have been taking advantage of everybody for all of time anyways. There's another one that I wanted to point out, but it's all again, like Tesla again, zero in taxes. The three biggest companies, United Healthcare, Walmart, and Amazon, in reverse order. So it's Amazon, Walmart, United Healthcare are the three most have the most profit of companies in the entire U.S. And together they paid 4% in taxes, while our small businesses in my town are paying 30% in taxes. So if we tax them that equal amount, we can reduce the burden on small businesses. We can reduce the burden on working people. We can reduce the burden on people honestly making under $1 million a year in total. It's not just, but we can relieve the taxes fully from people that are making under 100,000. And then just make everybody 100,000 and not pay taxes, and just start at a progressive rate. If we make these billionaires and corporations pay way more than they're paying currently. Everybody wants to talk about Make America Great Again, and they keep referring back to the 1950s. The Republicans like to say that because they want Jim Crow segregation, but I'm cool with going back to the 50s only for the fact that they used to tax wealth at like 90%, and it is the entire reason the middle class was created. But yeah, everybody's saying, oh, Make America Great Again. Let's go back to the 1950s when everything was so perfect. Then tax the rich. But
Sure. But you're not going to like the answer a lot of us are going to have because...
Yeah, it's like, you just want to be racist. You just don't want black people to vote. That is what you want. But what you're totally missing is the 90% freaking tax rate. And then we also have civil rights. And then we lift the tax burden. We lift it. It's off of us.
And then we undo, trickle down economics, which we all know doesn't work, because all that happens is it trickles back up. It just trickles upward. It's like a reverse waterfall.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's literally just.
You're not even level 30.
No, it stays in their pocket. And that's the issue, is it makes the rich richer and the poor poor. And then on top of it all, and we know this, it's expensive to be poor. It is more expensive to be poor than it is to be middle class.
You can't buy a $200 pair of shoes that's going to last you to work in for 3 years, or for 5 to 10 years. You're buying shoes every 6 months for $10 because you can't afford to get the nicer pair that's $200 right then. You have to get the pair that's $10. I mean, it's more like $40 now, but like that, like you can't buy stuff that's good quality. Stuff doesn't last, and you have to keep replacing over and over and over again, and then we get stuck in the cycle of capitalism, and we have toys that are being advertised to small children, and everybody wants everything, and nobody is happy just having what they have. It's always a constant need for more. So it's a ruthless cycle, and it needs to be broken. And it's that capitalism really preys on the working people, not just because of what it does to the workers itself, where we're not increasing pay rate, we're not giving benefits, we're not doing any of that, but like it literally advertises to break every last, or like to take every last dollar and break that person into nothing, because that's where all your money goes, because you have to have the latest thing, you have to do this, you have to do this, you need to go on that trip, you need. And while I think traveling is great and it really does open up your eyes to a lot of what the entire world has experienced and other people in other states, other countries, whatever the case is, we don't have to have the nicest luxury hotel. We don't have to have first class seating. We don't have to have premium economy seating. We don't need to change our entire structure, Southwest, and including premium economy and paying for bags. Like, you had a fantastic structure, and everybody wanted to fly Southwest because you didn't have to pay for your bags. Like, you got 2 free bags. Everybody got the same treatment. Everybody lined up at the same time. You can pay to get on the flight first, but that's it. Like, and now they've made it another grab for more money. So
where, let's see, I flew Delta most recently because they had, if you paid $10 more, you got a free bag. And if you checked a bag, it was $40. So it's like, I saved $30 by upgrading for $10 to have that service. Yeah. It's like, but still, why can't we get one free checked bag like we used to? Like, why? Especially somebody like me where, go ahead.
We went to Great Wolf Lodge, which is already expensive for my daughter's birthday. My mom had us a Groupon. It's like, it was like $178 for a hotel room and 2 days of the water park, which is great because it's like $50 a day per person, if not. So we did that. We had staycation. Then you stop to pay for parking. So it's just like at-home parking and put in tolls for parking. And then you just like put in these, like, they just keep micro purchases. They're not micro at $25, but you know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. Like, with like, okay, well, you still have to pay for this bag, or like you still have to pay for this, or you don't. Why do we have to pay for every single thing? Like, toll roads alone piss me off on a regular basis. So I'm not.
I hate toll roads. I understand why they have some of them, but again, that is a thing where they are passing the tax back on to the people instead of the corporations.
Yeah, and you're not using the tax money that we're already paying into it. Like, we're already paying money for infrastructure, but you're going to continue to tax us even more to be able to drive on the roads that you built with our tax money?
Yeah. So speaking of that, I will have to look if Texas is doing this, but I know it's happening in other states and in Indiana, where the companies coming in with the data centers are allowed to proactively charge the constituents that live in that area for any infrastructure services they might need. So let's say they're saying, oh, well, we need $300,000. They're allowed to increase everybody's energy bill to match that $300,000, even if they decide, we're going to cancel that, or we're not going to do it, or this. They just get to keep that money. It doesn't go back to the people.
We have 3 data centers that they're trying to put in rural Texas, 2 in Henderson County, 1 in Forney. And it's rural. Like, we have an aquifer. They're trying to drain 15 billion gallons out of our aquifer that gives our farmlands water to build these data centers. And we have a failing energy grid.
Yeah.
Bad. We're still paying for the 2021 collapse that killed over 700 people from losing weather that Ted Cruz decided to leave on. I gotta throw that in every time I talk to anybody. It's just Ted Cruz.
No, please, I'll do. Please do. By all means. And even if you think you're going to piss somebody off by saying something, do it. Be as blunt as possible. I will piss as many people off as possible.
I got my Republican mother to, like, she hates Ted Cruz. She's also, I've gotten her very progressive at this point. I'm so excited because we talked about it. I was on the phone with her 2 days ago, and I was like, hey, public land doesn't exist. And she goes, well, she was like, well, what about where the power lines are? And I was like, no, that's privatized by the city. You can get arrested for being there. And she goes, oh. And I was like, can you name me any other instances of public land in the U.S.? And she goes, no. Just like everything's owned by the government or it's by somebody else, and it can be policed. And she's like, oh my God. Like, because we were talking about the unhoused situation. I was like, where is anybody going to go? What public land can they go to legally to live? And so, like, we keep getting back onto these topics where, the same thing though, like, she hates Ted Cruz, and I've gotten her to the point now where she's like, all for bodily autonomy, all for this, all for that. Like I explained the abortion part of this repeatedly to her, and I have been doing this for years. It wasn't until March of this past year that she started listening to me. And what got her is I complained about a bunch of stuff, and then she complained about one thing, and I was like, hey, and like I kind of like badgered her on that one issue, and I go, oh, by the way, like how much stuff have I said over the past year that has happened? Do you think I'm overreacting, or has it actually happened now? And she goes, it's happened. And then she started listening to me. She started listening to the history of stuff, and she started, oh my goodness. I'm not running as an independent. I'm running on the Democratic ticket, but as a progressive with support from the Democratic Party in our area, which is fantastic. I don't know how many Texas people that you have worked or like talked to. But if they've mentioned Kendall Scudder, he's our chair, and he's very progressive. And so he is abolish ICE, doesn't take PAC money, doesn't take corporate money, doesn't do any of that stuff. I mean, PAC money, corporate PAC money. But he's working with like Powered by People and the Texas Majority PAC and a lot of the progressive areas, but they are really big on civil rights and everything else as well. So because he is so open about all of this, our Democratic Party, like in our county chairs, are all for the progressives. They helped get him elected. They absolutely love him. He's in everything. So I'm not scary to them, which is
great.
It's crazy just being in Texas, because I was talking to somebody, he's running for Senate in Kansas, and he was like, so you don't have any establishment support? And I was like, I have a ton of establishment support, a ton of it. And it's because we have a chair that is finally progressive. So,
and
not
that's what we need is we need more progressives, more socialists, more independents, people who are willing to break away from the status quo and say, it's not okay, it's not all right, I'm sick and tired of it, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, we need to do better, period.
And there's corruption on both sides. I would rather run as a Democrat, obviously, than a Republican. I like Republicans. But I'm definitely on the Democratic ticket, but I am very far left on my spectrum. Like Bernie's up here, and I'm like over. Like I just keep going down. I'm a good mix between global and like nationalist. Like I'm like right in the center of the globalism and the nationalism, but I'm very far left on politics.
Gotcha.
There's like social programs, workers' rights, all of that, because I'm a big union.
No, that's my husband's part of the union. Yeah. And believe me, that union is exactly what has saved his rear end and his job time and time again. He works for AT&T. Okay, if you know anything about AT&T, a few times a year, like they like to go through and cull the herd, and they get rid of the few people off the totem pole, like the bottom three, and then they get rid of some of the managers. Yeah. And if he weren't part of that union, if he had at any point switched over to being an AT&T employee directly instead of a CWA union worker, he could have lost his job. Yeah, he is. He is a communication worker. So the CWA is quite literally what has saved his job multiple times, because it's put him like top 3 of the totem pole. He doesn't get cut because he's been there so long.
That's
hi PJ.
But that's what my husband, he's low man on everything, because he's only been with Southwest for about 4.5 years.
Okay.
4 years and a couple months. I typically don't say that out loud, but he's a part of the Transport Workers Union, and that has negotiated just a ton of issues already since he's been there, between like sick pay, the way that the contract works, what they're trying to dock, what they're not trying to dock, all of that kind of stuff. If it wasn't, they've also got a grandfathered in health insurance for only union members through Southwest, which is where we pay $0 a month on health insurance, which is absolutely insane. But they don't cover well visits, and they don't cover vaccinations. So we're technically underinsured, even though we don't.
Right.
But we have a low deductible. But then the low deductible and the $0 a month is fantastic until you're paying $260 for a well visit and $300 for each spot that your children need.
Yeah.
So it still screws you over. So don't get me wrong. It was like it may be $0 a month, but those vaccinations are insane.
Expensive. They're expensive.
$200 bill like that.
Well, and then come to find out, Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Ladies, once you hit 40, they don't cover your pap smear anymore. They used to, but they don't. It's $260 every year to have them swab you because they want you to get swabbed once every 5 years. Uh-huh. Well, here's the thing is, after 40, they genuinely don't care whether or not you're viable because of the old history of, well, after 35, we're geriatric. And after 40, our wombs aren't capable of really sustaining life, even though as men get older, even though the testosterone drops, their swimmers get stronger. It's like, do you guys not understand how reproductive works?
Have you seen the newest research on that?
Yeah, I have.
So-
It's like, do you guys not understand? Our uterus does not decay. It actually has special genes in it that it's just as fresh as it was the day we were born, just like our eggs don't decay because, again, they have a gene in them that keep them exactly the same as they were when we were in our mother's womb.
So they have been blaming women and old eggs for an increased risk of special needs, but it's actually sperm as it ages. It's
men because the older you get, your swimmers become broken.
Yep.
If your swimmer is broken, the child is more likely to have a genetic defect. Period. That's where autism came from, people. That's the reason why kings, as they got older, their kids got stupider. No offense to anybody who has royal blood. That would be me too. You know, Henry VIII had a child with a maid. Okay. He had a lot of children with maids. That's all I'm going to say. He had a lot of children with maids. A lot of children with maids. Yeah. But so it's one of those, like, that again is another thing that contributed to the issues we see today is, well, the interbreeding because royal line had to stay pure. That literally triggered a lot of the physical defects, the mental defects you've seen in the royal family and their off branches for centuries.
Yeah. I was like, we had the chins and the noses and everything else. That was just insane. And it was very incestuous. I was like, we go back and forth on our ancestry on like the European side. My European side is like Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English, all of the colonized areas over there.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm also Cherokee from the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian. Yeah, I was like, and we have Bakers and Dalsworls like that. My family's on. My family's still like, we still have Heltons that are, you know, within the reservation. So it's wild to see. And like the difference in the bloodlines and the people and like what they were like, it's crazy. I wish I could show you a picture. I might be able to show you a picture of my.
I wish I could show you a picture of mine because so on my dad's side, a lot of Italy, they had Italian and they had Cherokee. My mom's side, well, my mom came from a line of gypsies.
Yeah.
And let's just say they started up in the Ukraine, and you can kind of see exactly where they started here, and they came all the way down into Italy and Ireland, and they came over. Well, the thing about gypsies, especially the gypsies that I'm descended from, is they actually believed in having children with multiple partners, even if they were married to one and they chose one to help them raise their 10 kids. All of their kids had different fathers because they believed that actually made the bloodline stronger. Especially as a woman got older, she was still having children with men in their 20s and 30s who were able to conceive and produce strong babies instead of, you know, older men. But even then, she would have a partner and they would raise 5 or 6 kids, but only one of them would be his. And they did that in order to actually make sure that even if kids married within the clans, there was no incest going on. It was truly, there was so much genetic diversity that you can see from Ukraine, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bohemia, all of them, all the way down into, you know, Germany and France and Italy and Ireland, just everything. And it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm a true mutt.
The English side of ours is just, there's going to be a lot of incest on that side of it. But then the Cherokees, they had like 7 different tribes, and they would marry. Like they would cross tribes to marry. They wouldn't marry within their own tribe, and that like they made sure that there was no incest. So I was like, but then we have the English people that are not the savages that came in and killed everybody, but also bred constantly within their own place. Clearly, because you know.
Yeah, they got to keep it pure because they're so much better. It's like, I kind of like the fact that I'm a mutt, and that the only incestuous stuff I can tie is Henry VIII. which explains a lot, but the rest of my family is very
White
much
supremacy
not.
and incestual behavior is just they come together. They just do. Also, somebody, who was it? I don't know who it was. But somebody said, Florida, Ron DeSantis. He passed a law saying that they banned the Islam custom of marrying cousins in Florida. And I'm like, I was like, as well as I do, that it's not the Muslims intermarrying in Florida or Alabama or Mississippi or the Carolinas or Georgia.
Or any of the rest of them in that area where we all know the story about the Hatfields and the McCoys, okay?
Yeah. I was like, let's just like it's not Islam that you're banning.
Yeah. Like we all know the stories. We've all made the jokes about Alabama and how family trees have, 2 branches.
Yeah. Literally 2 branches. Like it's just my ancestors were thankfully my southern ancestors were descended from the Cherokees, and so there's not a lot of the crossover that you would see, but I'm pretty sure my grandfather dated his first cousin at some point. Super gross. I've only met the man twice in my life. I was very close with his mom and his sister, but he just kind of like disappeared out of my mom's life. So I was grateful not to, but he's the last person in our family that looked Cherokee by any means. Gotcha. Everybody else, just the Irish and the Scottish took over, and everybody.
So for me, what happened as part of our story is the gentleman who was the Cherokee, they actually raided a plantation and they kidnapped some of the indentured servants, the slaves, everything. They were actually trying to free them.
Yeah.
And one of the indentured slave servants they grabbed was my ancestor, who was from Ireland, came over as an indentured servant, which if you guys don't know, is just a pretty term for white slave. Yeah. It meant they were the ones that stayed inside the house, and a lot of times part of their indentured servitude is they served the master in bed too, even if they didn't want to.
Yep. So
mind you, that's part of what they were freeing them from, because this was a gentleman who was impregnating his, slaves and his, servants. And so my ancestor actually ended up marrying the Cherokee gentleman, stayed with him, and it was her kids who decided to incorporate into white culture, because at that point, the Cherokee were being told either you incorporate or we slaughter you. You have no choice.
So my family, they're indigenous to Georgia, and then they got pushed into, half of them got pushed into the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian in North Carolina, and the other half were sent on the Trail of Tears. You can see in my DNA where I have matches that are literally along the Trail of Tears and up into Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we definitely we split, but it was both my grandmother's side and my grandfather's side are Cherokee, and we have multiple full-blooded Cherokee Indians in our ancestry line. Like we can go back about 8 generations, I think, is when the 7th generation married a woman, but we don't know if I think she was half Cherokee, that she was on the reservation, but she had an English name. So we have no idea what her full was, but we knew what his was. Thomas Orlophus Krebeck Helton is his name. And then we just keep going down. And it wasn't until 2 generations below him that they fully left the reservation, because a lot of my ancestors were born in Caldwell County, which used to be part of that Cherokee reservation. And then they slowly moved down into Alabama. Some of them moved back into Georgia. Some of them moved down to Alabama. But a good bit of them left the reservation because they didn't like to be under the government's thumb, and they started living off grid. And I actually, from one of my great aunts, have a letter where she was very derogatory towards her, I think it was her grandmother, who didn't go on the Trail of Tears because she was pregnant, and she was really nasty about it. But she was trying to get claim of heritage. But she called them savages and everything too, like their own grandchildren. And then my great-great-grandfather, he had 3 brothers. 2 were white, 2 looked white, and 2, they almost looked black because they were so dark and they have a curly hair. So it was a really weird mix. It was a full Punnett square of you have 2 full-blooded Cherokee Indians nearly is what it looked like, and then 2 white kids. And then we made some jokes about it, but honestly, they all look identical in the face, and it's crazy to look at. And then we go down further, and then his son, one of Lonnie, who's one of the white-looking ones, he was also white passing. He became a pastor outside of Birmingham, Alabama during desegregation in the 70s. And he started working with black churches because he's the first white passing person and his first fully white passing line in our family, and used that privilege to literally help desegregate and worked with the black churches in the community to get rights for people while my aunt my grandmother crossed the picket lines and my aunt was being taken to school every day. And my grandmother, which was his daughter-in-law, took hundreds of kids from around the school district and took them to school, across the picket lines constantly. And then she marched for women's liberation, and she marched for women's rights during the 70s and 80s. She was a single mom, couldn't find an apartment. Nobody would rent to her because she was a single mom with 3 kids. And she worked 3 jobs. She was very busy and everything else. But it's our family has fought hard, even in the Deep South, on all fronts. But they have instilled that in me. But the thing for me, I'm the first one that has gotten super involved in politics. My aunt worked for the NIH for 40 years. So she was kind of an independent. She wasn't independent, but she was very not super involved. Would vote for the Democratic Party because of how she grew up, but didn't get extremely involved in the current events until about 5 to 10 years in, and she started realizing how much the government's decisions was affecting her job. When she got into grant, she went from secretary work to grant funding, and when she started getting into grant funding, she was seeing how policy was playing out. She got even more involved, but she still wasn't very civically educated. But she made sure that I went to school, and I'm the one that's getting civically educated. So we don't have a big history, and I didn't have a big civics education from my Republican stepdad who doesn't believe that women should be able to vote, or my mom who left school. She dropped out of school and got her GED, and then only took 1 semester in college after that. And then she decided she was going to disengage from the world and fell into culture wars. So I got into this point, and so I actually have my opponent who bashes me frequently because I wasn't a primary voter. I was still a general election, and I tried to vote in midterms, and I tried to vote in some city stuff when I was able to because I had a crazy work schedule and I didn't understand early voting fully. But it's because I didn't understand civics, because my family has literally been fighting the U.S. government for over 300 years, and I'm the first one to step into a role where I want to fight it from the inside instead of the outside like they've been doing.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. I love that. I know sometimes stories are long-winded, but you notice how our ancestry genetics tied back to exactly what we're talking about again, because it does. I mean, like it or not, perfect example. So I looked Native American when I was born. So did my kids, because of the Cherokee blood in us, to the point where my son's biological father, I invited him to be there for his son's birth, despite the fact that I decided the day I found out I was pregnant, I was leaving him. He was there. Son came out, took one look at him, said, "It's not mine," and left the delivery room. Why? He genuinely thought the kid was part Hispanic or black because he came out with black hair, black eyes, and dark ruddy skin, not blonde with blue eyes and pale skin, because we were both blonde. He was blonde, we both had blue eyes, and I'm paler than pale.
Yeah, and so I'm sitting, everybody, they bash me because I'm Cherokee, and they bash people that are, white presenting for claiming heritage when I can literally name you my, who.
I've had the DNA test. Listen, there's 1.3% Cherokee still in me, okay? DNA says I'm part Cherokee.
We don't have any men that are alive in our family that were able to test, from that line. They're all dead. So I think Nolan, my son, is the first one, but he is so far removed from them that I don't know if we're ever going to be able to find the actual Cherokee DNA blood. But we have our ancestry, and we have our trees, we have our maps, we know exactly who we're related to that are in these areas. And they're I need people with kids that have blonde hair and blue eyes to stop saying they're in. But I'm but they are. Because my kids have hair and blue eyes. But it's because my husband is Polish and German and English. Their map is very concentrated, and then where is he?
But Robert came from 4 countries in Europe. Dan's got 6 countries in Europe, and they're all Caucasian countries. Yeah. So I can understand why, you would think, but I'm not 100% Caucasian, sweetheart. I got Ashkenazi Jew. I got, Southern American. I got this. I got that. It's all tied in there. Yeah, I'm 95 or 93% Caucasian, but it's the other 7% that means, no, I'm not 100% white, like it or not. I'm not.
Mine's a little weird. It's mostly just like the white presenting, like the Scottish and often Irish and things that weren't claimed as white when they would have moved here. And then, except for the English, my dad's family is from Finland, Latvia, Estonia, Turkey, and Russia, and France. And I called my dad and I was like, who's Russian? And he was like, what? I was like, one of your parents is Russian? And he was like, what? I was like, do you know which one? I was like, I have no idea. Because whoever it was is Russian and Latvian and Estonian. And so we have that whole part. Nobody knows who it is. So we're thinking that somebody fled somewhere that they were not supposed to be. And it probably was a criminal. And then we have one side that was French. And it was I know my grandfather's mom was French. But and I know that there was this much German on my grandmother's side over on my dad's. But they're also very racist. So I don't get to know them as well as I think. I don't get to know them for the DNA aspect. I can only stand to be in the room with my grandpa for so long before I start getting the ick. So,
hey, I feel it. I know. There's certain people, I love you. I will always love you. I cannot be in the same room as you because 5 minutes of talking to you and either if I'm going to pull my hair or I'm going to punch you. One of the two is going to happen. Yeah. I can't do it.
I wanted my grandmother to meet both of my kids because I had my son and she had only met my daughter. I've talked to them 3 times since I've had my daughter and she's 6. And, my grandfather was like, oh, so you think Kamala's going to win Texas? And I was like, I don't think she's going to win Texas, but I sure hope she does. Look on his face.
And then we're hearing how all these independent places, and all I got to say is do your own research. Elon Musk, September 2025 interview. It's a clip about 3.5 minutes long. If you find it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But what he said is basically check any state where there's a county that has 50 or less votes for Harris. That's where you'll find your answers.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Confirming what we already knew.
Yeah, Rockland, Clark County, Nevada. There are a couple of them that I've been able to see. But a lot of the rural areas, you can't check it. They don't have it public. Like, they don't have a good system for it. Like, Kaufman County and Dallas County, where I'm at, phenomenal, interactive. You can see everything. Outside of that, you can't see anything. It's not public record.
Yep. And then they're calling it part of it. Well, it's election security measures. This is election security measures. They're not election security measures. They're cracking down so people can't vote. That's what they are. Yep. You know, the SAVE Act is not an election security measure. It's to purposely disenfranchise over 70 million Americans, the vast majority of them being women. Not all of them, because I know plenty of men who have hyphenated their last names, but that's exactly it. Men who have hyphenated their last names, they are now disenfranchised.
And then there is a massive minority community. It's Black and Hispanic is the majority of it, especially in Texas. They were not allowed births in hospitals. They were given birth certificates with no name on them, or they didn't have any paperwork because they couldn't afford to get to a hospital because it was hours away. They do not have birth certificates. It's not that there's no evidence of them having birth certificates, and these are people born in the 40s and 50s and 60s that this happened to. They are still alive, they are still kicking, and they have no documentation on that front. So it's not just women, it's not just men. And what's really grinding my gears on this one is that the examples are, so racist if I need an ID to buy alcohol. It's racist if I need an ID for this, this, and this. I'm like, do you have to prove your citizenship for those things? Right. You have to prove your citizenship because this is a totally different thing. And then you have all of the women that are like, I've never had a problem voting in my life. Like, well, the law is not. Right.
Yeah. But you're going to. Oh, well, I'll just, no, you don't understand. Your birth certificate with your driver's license is not valid.
No.
You have to have your passport, and your passport and birth certificate have to match.
a birth certificate or marriage license and everything else, and even with a marriage license and divorce certificate, marriage license and divorce certificate, and a new marriage license and everything else, you still have to sign an affidavit saying that these are the correct documents, and they still have to go through and verify everything if you do not have a passport documenting your citizenship that matches your name.
Yep. They're trying to make it as hard as
The
possible.
real ID, and I'm like the one that only has 5 states that has a valid citizenship requirement. Only 5 of them. Only 5 of the states with a real ID have citizenship on the ID.
Yep.
So the other 45 states are just, but you don't want to look at that either, because if you look at that, then you're wrong. So,
If you don't show an ID, how do we know if it's the right person voting? No, that's not it. You should absolutely show your ID. But the issue is they're not going to accept the majority of forms of ID that they do now. They're making it even harder. They're going to make you present multiple forms of ID at the voters booth so they can confirm you are the same person across all 5 documents. Plus have this, plus have that.
and if the law requires more work for women, then it's not a fair and just law.
No, it's not.
It's not a fair and just law if women are having to prove and jump through multiple hoops. I have one acquaintance who has been waiting 22 days to get her birth certificate from a rural parish in Louisiana. Then she had to give them the credit card number over the phone to get her her birth certificate. So they're not here yet. Hers and her daughters are still missing. It's been almost a month. It's not easy to get these documents if you don't have them. It's not easy to get copies of these documents if you don't have them. I think picture ID is probably fine at the polls. Lance Gunn's a piece of crap. He's not going to go anywhere. Sorry. I've already with him at a library. He's an asshole. There's a video on my website, which is probably the closest you're going to get to a debate, is me screaming at him.
Hey, follow her, go find it, like it, share it so we can all see it.
They already do. But I am on there. But yeah, so it's like, the picture ID, not a problem. The fact that we have to require citizenship in order to be able to vote when they actually check citizenship during registration is the issue. But also, if we can automate drafts and make that, why can we not automate voter registration as a whole? Based on Social Security. Because if it's based on Social Security, then you're a citizen. And it can be automatic. When you turn 18, you're already registered to vote, and you can immediately go to the polls the day you turn 18.
And see, and I was just double checking, what year did Social Security numbers start? And that started in 1936, which sounded about right. I knew it was somewhere around 1940 because it wasn't until the 1970s that they started pushing hardcore to actually give a birth certificate and Social Security card to every citizen born, regardless if it was at a hospital or at home. That's only been since the 70s. So you're right, as everybody before that. So you have 3 generations of, people, 3 decades worth, who they don't have the required information. And they're going to reach out to their states, and their states aren't going to have the required information because they were born in the 1940s and a birth certificate was never actually issued for them. There's nothing on record, period. So how are those people supposed to go out and vote?
Okay, there's no town hall scheduled for Lance Gunn. He's a piece of crap, as I previously mentioned, and he will only show up to Republican events. So if you would like to be informed, I would join all of the Republican groups in Henderson County, Anderson County, Van Zandt, Kaufman County, and Dallas to see if you end up being able to find him at one of the Republican events. But he will not go to anything that is public facing, and they don't advertise it anymore since I organized a protest against one that they publicly advertised.
I love it.
Get on the mailing list.
They are shutting down some resources to process the passport requests. Yeah. They are making it more difficult.
They're shutting down. So Social Security Administration buildings, they are actually defunding. So that affects our seniors directly because they're not able to go get Social Security, but that affects our kids that change names, adopted kids, that affects married women, that affects people who just want to change their name to change their name. It'll affect witness protection. It affects everything. But they have wait lines that are 8 to 24 hours because they don't have enough people to work the phones. And offices all over the country are being shut down at a rapid rate. And the first ones closing are rural ones. So they have to go to the city that they may not be able to access because they're 65 plus years old and legally blind and cannot drive. And then they're also increasing how often you have to fill out paperwork. to make the process bog down even further. But somebody that has to drive 4 hours finally gets a ride to the nearest Social Security Administration building will have to do it again in 6 months in order to continue receiving benefits. So not only are they shutting down the resources to process passport requests and Social Security requests, they are literally making it harder to keep up with the paperwork.
Yep. And then they're shutting down rural, and this is what it's a lot of rural things that they're shutting down to make it harder for people who live in rural areas to access any benefits. One of the things they're doing is they're actually just closing down voting booths in rural areas, period, and saying, well, now you got to drive 50 miles to the closest place to vote. Good luck. Have fun.
Yep.
What do you want to do about it?
And they're also closing down. So one thing that they did in Dallas, they did a lot of things in Dallas and Tarrant County. But Tarrant County,
tell us.
Both Republicans helped dictate how many booths went out, or like how many polling locations went out. They shut down the predominantly Black neighborhood polling locations, and they shut down the college polling locations. And then they decided how many, they separated their computers. So they had Democratic computers and they had Republican computers. Kaufman County, they just all in one place, all in the same computers, not an issue. But for some reason, Dallas had that separate one. So they had 5 on the Republican side and 1 on the Democratic side, and majority Democratic areas. So they would slow down these lines. It would take multiple hours for these lines. The Democratic ones would be broken. And then we ended up having Ken Paxton sue the Dallas Republican Party, or the Dallas Democratic Party, because a federal judge let them keep the polls open longer and took away 2 hours of votes in Dallas County for people that were waiting on their one machine that they had at their polling location. So the the Dallas Republican Party guy is, I believe he's resigning. So I don't know what's going on with that, but he should be resigning in April or this month.
Yeah. Larry's saying next will be signatures don't match birth certificate. Yeah. Like they were going to figure, oh, well, this doesn't look quite right. I'm sorry, I have fibro. My hand signature changes day by day depending on how my hand's going to feel. Sometimes it looks pretty. Sometimes it looks like chicken scratch because my hand's like this and it's going bloop, bloop, bloop,
I just stay with
because my fibro's flared up.
Yeah.
So it's one of those like, mine always looks like chicken scratch. It just looks like bloop, 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 bloop,
I just do first initial Y, last initial, and that's what you get from me, and it looks like chicken scratch. And I haven't changed it anymore, but it's ridiculous. They are working really hard in Dallas to disenfranchise a lot of people. They're working, Kaufman, they're not working so hard on doing that, which is great. But Van Zandt, they just got an election. Van Zandt's a very small county, but they just got an elections administration office for the very first time ever. And the new guy that's taking over as judge wants to abolish it. And then Henderson and Anderson County, they have pretty good departments, and their Democratic chairs are extremely active in the community. They work well with the Republicans, as far as elections and stuff go, and they maintain a pretty good, like they're very involved in the entire process on what's open, what's not open, and all of that. So we're seeing, good stuff in the rural counties, except for Van Zandt. And then our Dallas County is it's screwed. And for some reason, the Republicans control how elections are administered, and the Democrats just don't. And I have no idea why. Because they want countywide voting, they want it to be as easy as possible, they want early voting, they want to make sure that they have a lot of polling locations and they're ready to staff them. The Republicans decided that they wanted paper ballots, and they decided that they wanted this, and they decided that, so they said, no, we don't want countywide voting, so now we don't have countywide voting. It doesn't make any sense.
Why didn't they stand their ground and say, well, we have everything set up, let's do this?
They're like 20% of the vote in Dallas, so I have no idea why they hold that power in Dallas. But whatever they say goes, like they are controlling the elections, and they're making it as difficult as possible for everybody else. So.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah. Tarrant County is where Taylor Remitt won. I don't know if you followed SD9, where it was that massive flip in Arlington, or like outside of Arlington. Yes. But because he won, they took away a bunch of polling locations for the next.
So Indra's saying, I saw on the national news, Dallas has a lot of immigration visa fraud going on. Thoughts on that?
What national news? I mean, there's immigration visa fraud everywhere, but
yeah, there is immigration visa fraud everywhere.
Yeah, like Melania be getting an Einstein visa. Start in the White House. But I haven't seen anything about a lot of immigration visa fraud. I have seen a lot about having the highest arrest rate for immigrants in Dallas, and one of the deadliest immigration, let's see, in Texas, ICE agents have gotten the most teenagers pregnant. In Texas, ICE agents have arrested the most people, the most children. They have detained the most children. They have nearly sentenced the most children to death and not getting them any medical treatment. They have left the most kids in pants covered in urine. They have caged the most children, and they have separated the most mothers from babies.
Yep. And so immigration was one I was going to bring up because, the whole pregnant girls, the detention center, the sending pregnant girls from other states who get pregnant while in detention to that specific detention center with the butterfly wing. And it's like, seriously? And here's the thing is, they're not, go ahead.
I was going to say, people are starting shell companies to get people visas. I'm going to guarantee it's Republicans trying to traffic people into the country. There are trafficking rings that are massive in Texas, and they caught a couple of them. So I'm going to guess if there's immigration fraud through visas and shell companies, it's human trafficking.
Yep, that is. I would give, as somebody who works in an industry where they actually do that a lot, okay? I'm a licensed massage therapist. They will bring in Asians and send one Asian girl to school repeatedly, but have 20 people who are licensed, quote unquote, when in reality, none of them actually went to school. It was just one girl going over and over and over, and she's actually an American-born citizen, so you wouldn't know the difference, even though she looks Asian. So we have issues where we just had a foot spa busted in our city where they had 6 people on staff who were offering those things who turned out to be immigrants who were all trafficked over the last 2 years into our state. So understand, Texas, Indiana, it's different types. They like to use massage, and a lot of those massage parlors are actually fronts. It's the reason why I tell people, if you want a legitimate massage therapist, go to a chiropractor or look for a business that has the name therapeutic in the title, because even spas, you can't be guaranteed they're not going to be places that they have some shady shit going on.
Yeah. Nail salons are also in Texas, is what a lot of the traffic goes through.
We have that issue here.
Yeah. And we have a lot of nail salons. We'll have 3 on the same strip. So those are typically pretty sketchy. If you look, if you start going someplace and you've gone multiple times, just look for turnover. See if you can manage to get the same person over and over again.
Yep.
If you're not getting the same person over and over again, or you're not seeing the same people over and over again, probably trafficking. But yeah. If there's immigration visa fraud in the Dallas area, then that's where it's going to be, because we have a lot of trafficking rings, especially with DFW International Airport, Alliance Fort Worth, which is typically cargo, but also does some other
Indianapolis
operations.
International is.
And then we have Dallas Love Field as well. And then we have a lot of small airlines that are at Plano, McKinney, and even out in Terrell. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, that's... Immigration and ICE, because I know they want us to call it Border Patrol, but what they are doing, regardless of the state, it's in Vermont, it's in Maryland, it's in Minnesota, it's in Northern Indiana, it's in Chicago, it's in Texas, it's in Arizona, it's in LA, it's in Washington, it's in Oregon, it's in the Carolinas, it's in Florida, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And part of what they're doing, and I know this, Iran, is to distract us from the Epstein files, and to distract us from immigration, and to distract us from all the issues we have going on right here, which again is where we say they throw 100 facts at us a day, so we can't keep up with anything, which is why we have to keep going back to these major conversations of, I don't like talking about the Epstein files any more than anybody else does. I don't like talking about the war in Iran any more than anybody else does. I don't like talking about ICE and what they're doing to little girls and sending them to the blue butterfly and going to a state where there's no abortion care. You know they're not getting medical care, and they're probably going to die, and then they're going to take the babies and they're going to put them in foster care, and they're never going to DNA test them and hold the men who are raping those little girls responsible. I know I said that all in one breath. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. That's how I feel. And then we also have, what is it? There was another thing that came up in my brain that was really important, and it's
then there was Venezuela, was to distract us.
Have you seen the Melania statement from yesterday?
I have.
Yeah. Did you hear about Amanda, the baby mama for Paolo that brought Melania.
Yes. One of my other people brought that up a few days ago and asked me if I heard about that. Then he sent me a little blurb with a link to a site because I asked him to like, please send me some information, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised because that's what they're gonna do. They're gonna deport the mamas and keep the babies.
So they did that, but then she's also threatened Melania specifically. She said, "There's a reason I keep in touch with your parents. It's not you. I have been around your family for a very long time. I will expose every single thing." And then Melania made a statement at the White House.
Know what, Ender?
Probably of Melania, I'm guessing.
Okay, did you not hear about Melania? If you haven't, just go look Melania for
4-minute video.
11 statement.
Yeah, it's on C-SPAN. There's like, it's a 4 minutes. It was I believe it was yesterday, like in the afternoon, or it was Friday. But it was a statement in regard to Paolo's wife. And Paolo he basically brings in models and everything else from foreign countries. And he's the one he also, shell company, visa fraud, all of the things. But brought Melania over to the U.S. on the Einstein visa and introduced her to Trump. But his baby mama, because they were never married and they don't actually have, like, they can pull her in to testify if they can get her back in the country. And there's no marriage, like, safety net because they were never married. But he basically deported her, kept the child, and now she has nothing to lose and has made public statements and sent nasty emails to Melania threatening to make her.
And here's the thing is, when you take a mom's kids away and there's nothing left to lose, oh, believe me, we will expose every last little dirty detail and then some.
Yep.
Don't fuck around with a mom whose kids you've taken away because you're gonna find out. Yep. We are in the world of FAFO right now, gentlemen. It's one of those, you fucked around and now you're finding out exactly how far we're gonna go.
So many men. I was poll greeting for the primary. The amount of men that came out of those buildings and said, "I only voted for females if I could, could help it." Like, the men are done with men. The men are done with men.
No, men are done with men. And we are. And so that kind of leads into men's mental health, which is something I always talk about because it's important, especially tying it to healthcare for all. Because I'll use my husband as a perfect example. He has a union. Through the union, they actually have access to psychologists for mental health care, right? Here's the problem. He's been trying for over 2 years just to get somebody to give him a call back.
Yeah. That's therapists in general.
Right. But here's the issue is if we went somewhere else where we had to pay out of pocket, it's not covered by the union, it's not covered by our health insurance, but he would be able to get the care he needs. Yeah. However, we have to go to somebody that's pre-approved, and he's having a harder time because it's only a list of 10 people to support like 3,000.
Yeah.
And that's just like, okay, no, that's where we need healthcare for all. We need to actually pay these doctors a proper wage so they have the time and the ability, and we have more of them to help the people who are struggling, which in this country is men, veteran, and children.
Yeah.
Those are the top 3 classes: men, veteran, and children. The
Also,
VA does not
therapy,
support their people.
Women wouldn't be getting murdered at extreme rates if men had therapy. Yeah, veterans are pretty bad, but
I don't disagree that veterans have it worse, but the vast majority of veterans are men.
Yeah.
Let's be honest about that. The vast majority, like 80+% of veterans are men.
Women were barely allowed to serve, and now they're getting kicked out of the military again. So
exactly. So it's one of those, when I say men and vets, I include all men that are categorized, but I also include all vets, as do with children, because that's the top 3 groups in order to themselves.
Yeah. And while I fully support contracting out some veteran healthcare, I only support it if they cannot do it throughout the hospital because they don't have staff on board, because they are literally contracting out all of their services to save money, and they no longer have doctors available when people need them, and they're having to go to other places when people spend all of their money that they can to get to one VA. I was actually at a play date with somebody today whose boyfriend is a veteran and had to choose where he lived based on where VAs were available, and he still has a hard time getting appointments, and he's in between 2 of them. Like, he's 45 minutes from both of them. Yep. So it's just, and there's still no care. There's still no care. And like, you have PTSD, you have complex trauma, you have all this stuff. Men are more, I don't know, emotionally unstable because they were never taught to like have emotions. And so there's nothing behind that. And because of men being oppressed and emotionally, not any other way, but just emotionally, they have taken that out on women on a massive front. So if we're able to get men health care, we're able to get veterans health care, we're able to get children health care and mental care for everybody, we would be in a much better place. There are a lot of people that
And yep. And this is what I do tell people, because throughout my course of life, I'm 41 years old, I have come to realize that if our society is ever to move forward and grow the way that we genuinely want it to, men have to get the mental health care they need. Why? Because when you look at it, women are being unalived in droves because men cannot control their anger. Women are being unalived because men were never taught how to emotionally regulate themselves. They were always taught to push it down, push it down, push it down. And when they explode, it's not their fault. It's everybody else's fault for pushing them that far. They never take ownership or accountability for their own actions because they were told growing up that was okay. They didn't have to. Everybody else would make excuses for them.
And then they get to the White House and bomb 8 countries.
Yep. And it's not just them, but it's millennials. It's Gen X. It's, the older generation of Gen Z. And we're trying to change it with my son, who's the in-cusp is Gen Z, and the alpha, which is my daughter, where, okay, so emotional regulation, you will learn that. God damn it, both of you. Why? Because it's not okay for you to take your anger out on someone else when they don't deserve it.
But then we have all these parents that literally have no resources, and they were traumatized as children, didn't get any care, didn't get any help, and they know that it's not normal and they know that it's not okay, but they have no way to change the cycle because they have no help and they have no resources, and it just continues. I mean, you have parents that obviously will do it regardless because they're just assholes, and they do need help, but we have
my grandmother.
Yeah.
My grandmother, AJ.
I have them in my family, but there are so many parents that just know that it's wrong and have no idea how to regulate themselves in order to help their kids. I'm pretty sure I'm undiagnosed ADHD. My mother had it and it runs in my family. And
so we are working on getting Phoenix hers. She has her appointment on the 11th of May. And then I have an appointment for with the telehealth, which is where we have to do the telehealth first. Then we get the test and then we get the results. So I have mine in June. I decided that since I'm going to go through it with her, I might as well get mine diagnosed. And who knows? Maybe Adderall will help me with all the doom piles I have around my house.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I know it also makes you
fingers crossed.
But with my daughter, I'm trying to make sure that I'm teaching myself skills of having undiagnosed issues and trauma and everything else. And then we're now in a cycle where she was just identified in kindergarten as gifted and talented at a school that's already meant for advanced kids. So she is literally at a team school, working on a 3rd grade level, and just got targeted for gifted and talented. And I'm like, I don't know how to keep my child from burnout. I don't know. I never knew how to do it myself, so I'm gonna have to sit here and go through all of it.
That's all, Chris.
As somebody who was in the gifted and talented program, if it's AP classes, by all means. If it's a government-funded program where they're going to be doing special testing, say no for the love of all that's holy.
I don't have any.
Okay, just if it's anything like the gate program, just say no.
I was in them. I had the counseling. I had special questions. I had people coming in.
Okay, so you understand, because I was in that program too, and all I got to tell you is, I don't know what it did to us, but it did something to all of us. I'm pretty sure there were green lights involved at some point, and I don't remember what happened in the rooms with the green lights. I just remember the green lights.
I was in my counselor's office constantly for testing, and then I was also in different programs for reading and math and all of that kind of stuff too. Mm-hmm. So it is through the school, and I'm just like, yeah. Also, I would rather her advanced grades than going to gifted and talented.
Yep. And here's the thing is, I've opted, and I did with both of them, to start my kids a little bit later because they could have tested and they could have started early. And I'm like, you know what? I did that. And believe it or not, I also skipped another grade. I was 2 years younger than my classmates, and it sucked because I was nowhere near the same level as them. They were so much more mature than I was. And I felt like a little kid tagging along because I literally was the little kid tagging along. When there's between 2 and 4 year difference between you and all of your classmates, that's huge. So I opted for my kids where
that was 15, and I was like, why? But at the same time, like, she was,
Yeah, now if they're intelligent, by all means.
yeah.
Now, I, with my undiagnosed bipolar manic depression and my undiagnosed ADHD, would have been better if my mom hadn't tested me, but I was so smart she couldn't keep me at home.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Now with my kids, mind you, my son going into freshman is AP classes for both math and reading, and Phoenix is AP for one of the two, which I'm very proud of because I didn't think the girl was going to get AP because she was really close last year, but not quite. This year she got AP in one of the two. So she's actually showing where even though she's got the ADHD and the dyslexia over this last year, we've been able to help her to the point where she doesn't have any more missed assignments, and we're working on getting her all the tools she needs in order to be successful.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt because with my son, they had him on his IEP by the time he was in second grade. They pushed him on it. With my daughter, I had to fight with them to get them to say, well, maybe there is something wrong and maybe we should put her on it.
The females.
Yeah. And I know that, oh, well, no, it has nothing to do with gender. It has 100% to do with gender.
Because you don't study both genders, so you don't know how it presents in females. And that is where it's the issue.
Exactly. And with females, well, it does actually present as extreme intelligence, extreme nerdiness, extreme, love of reading, extreme shyness, or extreme emotions, extreme vocal. It's extremes. With girls and ADHD, it's always extremes of one end or the other.
And
so sometimes,
it's
yeah.
spiraling inside of your head. It's insane anxiety, insane depression, and it is like it's one or the other. I was a quiet. I read a ton. I was very smart. I burned myself out constantly, and I spiraled so bad all the time because emotionally. And so I don't know if you saw my shirt, but it's just.
No, I did.
I'm on my Star Stripes and Equal Rights. So this is where
I love it.
Also in medical communities as well. And like I not only do we have issues with gender, we also have issues with race and in those medical settings, and it's horrifying. And it's every setting. There is not a setting that is not either gender, like discriminates against gender or discriminates against race, including testing that is set medical testing from the 1930s that calculates African Americans and white people completely different. I mean,
You should know this because
it's harder for one or the other. There's never just one solid
colored.
way to diagnose everybody equally, even though it's not the same. Like there
should be a general test. There really should. Because again, as a massage therapist, and I've had this conversation with quite a few people where they come in, they go, well, yeah, I support my race. I'm like, so the human race? They're like, no, my race. I'm like, well, if you're not part of the human race, then what race are you? Oh, the black race. And I'm like, my friend, do you not understand the fact that when it comes down to it, there is only one race, and that is human being. We just have different levels of pigmentation, and I happen to just be pigmentally challenged.
Yeah, I was like, race is a social construct, and it is majority of that is held within the U.S.
Yes. And I said,
and I mean, it's deserved at this point in time for people to be able to like protect themselves. Because that is the one way you find community, and you're able to protect yourself and you're able to protect everything else, like mentally, physically, whatever the case is. But at the same time, like we have put that on ourselves.
Yeah, we have.
Mostly because of people that look like me. But
yeah.
I'm just, it's disgusting. But just the fact like we have general tests, but I mean the fact that your goal for somebody that is white versus somebody black to medically diagnose when you have to hit something this high to be black to be diagnosed with the same disease that somebody that's white has to be diagnosed with down here is just absolutely insane. The same thing with male and females. Why do females have to hit this point when males only have to hit this point in order to get medicated?
Yep. No. As somebody who has fibromyalgia, believe me, I understand more than anybody because I don't have textbook presentation with my fibro. It is called atypical fibromyalgia, just like I get atypical migraines. I don't present how textbooks say I'm going to present. The actual migraine, the pain part, is actually my last symptom. And if that hits, I am out for 7 to 9 days before I am okay to rejoin the world, because I will spend the first 5 in bed in so much pain that it's not even funny. But I don't let myself get to the point because we had to figure out and learn what all of my triggers were and how I got to the head pain. So if I get 1, 2, and 3 first, I know I have to sit down, rest, drink lots of water, and find someplace cool, or my migraine's going to start, and I'm going to be out for a while.
Yeah,
And we can't do that.
I have daily migraine medication because once my migraines hit, I'm done. And even with my migraine medication, I still get all my symptoms. I just don't get the actual migraine itself. But it'll take me out for a while, and it's not fun. But mine is endometriosis related. So
yeah. See, whereas mine is not. Mine is cortisol level related, which sucks because do you know what triggers cortisol in the body? A lot of shit triggers cortisol in the body.
Yeah, I had to do a lot of stuff with cortisol because my cortisol was spiking so bad with children. Like it was raising my blood pressure, my cortisol levels, everything was just spiking. I was holding weight in my stomach. And then I was getting the migraines really bad on top of it. So I've been able to like dial down a lot of that, but it's still hard. But also, I do need to get out of here soon because I gotta go take care of my kids.
No. So I will let you go soon, and we will schedule again because I have more questions for you. But here's a few fun ones that I want. If you could snap your fingers and make one thing law in Texas today, what would it be?
Oh, it would be just equal rights for women immediately. I think would be the most women dying, women dying, women not having access to a lot of stuff. But in an intersectional feminist way, not in a white woman feminist way. I want everybody. No,
in a true, just feminine way. You want equality for everybody across the board, so everybody gets what they need. Period.
But that is just equality.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not a feminist thing. It's just feminine. It's a female thing. It's a motherly, maternal thing to want to take care of everybody.
We take care of our Black women. We take care of our LGBTQ women. We take care of, the women in general. We take care of the people that are being suppressed and really pushed down, and everybody else will flourish. And that is why women's equality is so important to me, is because until we can get everybody on the same playing field, regardless of we're not going to have any kind of equality. We're not going to be able to progress.
Yep. And I know Larry's saying it's just cultures are different. So here's the thing, and that's where you're right. So the differences are not race. It's not race-based. It's ethnicities. It is culture, and it is religion. Those are our differences, not our color of our skin. That has nothing to do with how we're different. It really, because you have to understand anatomically. So male and female, congratulations. They're slightly different anatomical positions and attachment points based on what genitals you have. However, outside of that, your neck, your shoulders, your back, your spine, your hips, your legs, everything, all of the attachment points are 100% the same.
The only thing that I will say is that redheads are different. And that's on the anesthesia.
Okay, well, yes. As a natural redhead, the way our bodies work is we process certain things faster because, like, we don't need the sun to create vitamin D3 in our bodies. Our bodies take vitamin D and naturally convert it into vitamin D3.
My family's all redheaded. I did not get the redheaded gene. This is my natural hair color.
This is my natural hair color.
But I got the
resistant to pain medication. So what happens is we metabolize pain medication 2 to 3 times faster than the normal body.
Oh yeah, I have to get like 3 times. So if they do anything in my mouth, I have to get 3 times the amount of numbing.
Yeah, and there's one of those, the doctor's like, okay, if you start feeling anything, because he knows I feel stuff, it's like, okay, I start going like this. He's like, okay, we stop and we numb. I'm like, oh, thank you.
I could still feel my skin open. Like I could feel the scalpel slicing my skin open. And they couldn't numb it. It didn't matter what they put on, what drugs they gave me. I had an epidural. I could still feel every single slice.
So tell me a nerdy passion.
Doctor Who? Does that count?
Yes, it does.
I'm a bookworm. Oh, hold on. Okay, if that counts, give me a second.
If you're a Whovian, that absolutely counts. Okay, what are we looking at?
Let's see. Hold on. I can't hold both at the same time. This is gonna fall. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me bring it down. A companion, me, my kids, Donna Noble.
Okay.
Jody, David Tennant, River Song.
Okay, so that is David Tennant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just one of my friends and her kids. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yes, being a Whovian counts. Okay, I have a Legend of Zelda tattoo on my calf sleeve, and I have a Gigamax Pikachu behind me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I don't have
we
that
all
one.
have our different nerdy passions.
Doctor Who, and then just I'm a total book nerd, and it's been history lately, but typically it's the romantasy.
Okay, I do love some
I like
romantasy
the, I
myself.
like world building. Also, the entire Wheel of Time series. I've read all of those books and the show books, but I do like the books.
So one more, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
And it's simply just tell me a random fact about yourself.
I hate those questions.
I know you do. Everybody does, because it puts you on the spot and you got to think.
It does, but then I have to like find something about myself. I don't know.
Just a random fact.
Okay, no, about what? My favorite
About
animal
anything.
is the okapi.
Okay, what was that?
My favorite animal is the okapi.
Perfect. Your favorite animal. I love
Very
it.
random. We see one all the time at the Dallas Zoo. And my zoo is the only carousel with okapis on it.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay.
They were commissioned specifically for my zoo. So not only do I get to go see them, we get to ride on okapis on the carousel.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, so that one's pretty random. So,
But that's exactly it. Is we want random facts. You know why? Because it makes you more interesting. It makes you human. It makes you a person.
did you know that they're related to giraffes?
I did not.
Yep, the tongue. They have the same head shape and they have a tongue, even though they look like zebras because they've got zebra
Okay.
legs and then like a brown body, and then they have a long-ish neck, and then
Right.
But there's also, if you go back to the hominid times when we had like Lucy and Ethiopia and all of this, when I tell you I like history, I like history. There was a creature that looked very similar to the okapi, where it had a long neck and a horse head and a horse body, but it was fat. And I think that was about the okapi.
Probably was. It probably was.
Like,
You know,
we can't see where anything is, but it is a cousin of the giraffe.
right. Well, and that's what we have to keep in mind is there are actually species who do intermingle and interbreed, and then all of a sudden we have this offshoot. You know, ligers are a thing because of exactly that, where a lion and a tiger has a baby. You know, so my cat Quetzalcoatl is a perfect example. She's a Bengal. She's descended from an Asian leopard, so she is right there,
She's beautiful.
all sprawled out.
There's the Quetzalcoatlus. There's a massive one at the Field Museum in Chicago.
I love it.
It's
You
just
love raccoon?
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. The Quetzalcoatlus, like they have a massive one, like full size, in the middle of the Field Museum in Chicago. It's on the top floor on the staircase. My daughter's obsessed. Every time we go anywhere, the first thing we hit is a museum. So
I'm definitely writing something down because Chicago's only a 3-hour drive from me.
Yeah.
We can make a day of it.
Field Museum's super fun. There's also an aquarium if you want to do 2 days, right next door to the Field Museum.
Perfect.
Yep.
Because then I could talk my husband and my kids into going. We could rent a room and have fun. I love it.
Super fun. But yeah, they have gigantic Quetzalcoatlus, which is funny because I feel like nobody knows what that is, and then I get really excited about it. They're like, "What?"
Oh no! Are you kidding me? I know exactly what they're. That's exciting because I love mythology. I love Mesoamerican mythology, Greek, Roman, Viking, Japanese, Chinese, all of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I got a Quetzalcoatl, and I've had a Jupiter and had a Fortuna and a Samhain.
I didn't know that was mythology because they named because there's a dinosaur that is a Quetzalcoatlus.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't realize that was also part of mythology. I'm on the archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
I was big in Roman mythology because I took Latin for 5 years and I've been to Italy and I've done all the things.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, actually, mythology was how my English teacher in the 9th grade got me back involved in actually reading and doing the assignment work, because she told me that she would give me different work if I would actually do it, and she would make it geared around things I enjoyed reading. I'm like, okay. I learned so much about mythology, and she was just like, and it was just to get me involved in classic, and because I was so bored because I finished the curriculum.
Yeah.
And she's like, I will give you extra credit. I'm like, I got 115% in that class that year.
Yeah, mine started, my insanity with history started when I was in 8th grade. And it was the Civil War. And I had a teacher that was really engaged in it, and she really, really loved Civil War. And I also was born in Maryland, so I lived in between Antietam, Gettysburg, and Monocacy battlefields. So I grew up driving past them frequently. So I got really into the Civil War, and that's where my history like kicked off. And I like went. I got 120% on my 14-page Civil War test because of.
Hey, I felt Miss Sharp, 8th grade American history. Let me tell you, first day she was dressed up as a Revolutionary soldier.
Yeah,
like that woman, she would dress up every few weeks in outfits and play act things out, and we would go on marches in the fields. And let me tell you, she got me involved in history to the point where even though I slept through most of my 9th grade history class, I still had 100% in the class.
Yeah.
Like, but she was the one that impressed the importance of our history on me and how important it is for us to learn our history before we are doomed to repeat our history.
My daughter and I, at 5 years old, we read the Constitution together. She's obsessed with every like Hamilton and all of that too. So we've watched Hamilton a few times. She loves listening to it. My husband only had a $10 bill on him when she lost her first tooth, and she was more excited that she got Alexander Hamilton on her money than a $10 bill. She's like, oh, $10. I was like, who is that? And she goes, Alexander Hamilton, and like screamed. So it's just we're history.
I love that. I love that. But I will put a pin in it. So we'll let you go because it's almost 8:15 my time. So what, 6:15 yours?
7.
Yeah.
7:15. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm about an hour behind you.
7. Okay. You're only an hour behind me. Got it.
Yep.
Either way it goes, you do have kids you got to take care of. So what I'll do is
Carmel. We're not in the same time zone, so.
Yeah. So real quick, her next election is May 26th. It is a primary runoff where she does have another contender that she is running against in order to get on the Democratic ticket. So if you are in Texas, it is especially important that you go out and you vote in that runoff so that way we know who our representative is going to be for that district. So do you want to go ahead and plug yourself? Tell everybody your contact information?
You can find me on ChelseyHocketForCongress.com, at Hocket for Congress on TikTok, and then you can just find me Chelsey Hocket for Congress on other platforms. Not on Blue Sky as frequently, but you're more than welcome to email me. Same thing, ChelseyHocketForCongress@gmail.com, and then I also have phone numbers and emails on my website if you need to contact me.
Perfect. So if you would be so kind as to just follow this up with a text with the correct email address you want me to send a copy of the video to. And then I'll get that to you in the next few days, and I'll also get it posted to YouTube and then make clips of it and post them to TikTok to help get you out as much as possible. And then I do want to touch base again after the 26th to see how it goes, to see if you're on the ballot, to see if you're running for November 3rd and what your next steps are.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. It was so good talking to you.
It was good. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you, my dear.
I appreciate you too. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
So everybody, that is Chelsey Hocket. She is running in Texas for the U.S. House of Representatives Congressional District 5. Here's the thing, Larry, you're not wrong, but you're not right. Most of history is written by the winners. You're correct. But when you actually start taking a look at what the losers write, because like it or not, if you go to some of those countries, you actually find records of their side of the war as well. It paints a better picture of the intricacies, I can't pronounce the word right now, of everything going on. But this is my second interview of the day. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I am tired. Much love, everybody. I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Christopher Ajluni. We've had him on before. He is running for Arizona's Congressional District 1. And the first thing we're going to talk about is whether or not he made the ballot. Did he get enough signatures? Because I know he was being sued. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Much love and take care, my friends. Bye.